Hello, I hope everyone is alright. Uh, Another video in this format that if you don't know, this format is just to talk about any news piece that I find interesting, that has a bit of relevance. So we read it, I read along with you, and then I give my opinion and my insight on it. Okay. So today, as you saw in the title of the video, we are going to talk about U.S. manufacturing extends slump in terms of factory employment loss in 5 years. Uh, this news article was in Reuters. As I said, they are factual, but I sometimes don't like their opinions and their deductions or their conclusions on the articles. But anyway, as a factual source of information, I think they are reliable in this aspect. But if I was you, I would do what I do and seek other sources of information about the same subject and always take it with a pinch of salt. At least the part of the conclusions, because the numbers they don't lie. Okay. Now let's get on with it. So again, this is in Reuters, as you can see, and U.S. manufacturing is saying some factory employment loss in 5 years. This news is dated from August the 1st, 2025. Washington, U.S. manufacturing contracted for the fifth straight month in July, and factory employment dropped to the lowest level in 5 years amidst tariffs that have raised the prices of imported raw materials. So, for someone that wanted to create more manufacturing jobs inside of USA, I think the job is not being done. But this is just me. What do I know? The Institute for Supply Management (ESM) said on Friday that its manufacturing PMI dropped to 48.0 last month from 49.0 in June. A PMI reading below 50 indicates contraction in manufacturing, which accounts for 10.2% of the economy. Economists polled by Reuters had forecasted the PMI edging up to 49.5. The weak PMI reading is consistent with economists' expectations for a slowdown in activity in the third quarter as the effects of the import duties become more apparent. This was also talked about here in, let me just focus in me. Sorry, getting the hang of this. This was also talked about here in the EU in Europe. The last I saw it was in kind of a debate. It's a type of news that we have where analysts are called to talk about current events, national and international. And they were talking about this. They were talking about how, for example, that connection that the US has with, for example, Canada and Mexico, where they delocated production and raw materials and all of that, and how Trump is imposing tariffs on said goods, and that is causing for the industry inside of the USA. That is basically an assembling industry. Okay, you have to understand this. And this is not just in the USA, okay? This is everywhere in the world. Uh, they gather raw materials and ready parts and all of that, and then they assemble them in their factories inside of the USA. So, in order for those factories, for those manufacturers to work, they need to have, first of all, a steady flow of the goods that they need. And secondly, those goods have to be at the lowest price. Because if, for example, how it's happening right now, uh, the goods are more expensive due to tariffs, that is going to increase in the same proportion or more the final price of the good that you are producing inside of the USA. And then that good will have to compete with other goods that are cheaper and of better or equal quality. So, like Apple, why Apple is not going to produce let's call it manufacture the iPhone inside of the USA? Because it would cost thousands of dollars to sell them, and who would buy it at that price? Look, this is just common sense. It's not very hard. But let's continue with the with the article. Then here they are talking about sorry, DSM survey forward-looking new orders, Subindex rules to 47. But no, this is they are just talking about how different they foreseen the growth and how the tariffs have impacted. But despite the rise in production, factories continue to shed jobs, meaning even if they are producing more, they are losing jobs. The survey measure of manufacturing employment decreased to 43.54%, the lowest level since July 2020, from 45.0 in June. The NSA has noted an acceleration of headcount reductions due to uncertain near to mid-term demand. Of course, tariffs. Delivery times improved last month, helping to slow the pace of increase for input prices. ESM survey supplier deliveries index dropped to 49.3% from 54.2 in June. Its gauge of prices paid by factories for inputs declined to a still high 64.8%, 88, last month from 69.7 in June. Sorry for being saying percent. Sorry. Uh, Government data on Thursday showed goods prices increased in June by the most in 5 months, with economists saying this was a start of a tariff-driven rise in goods inflation that is expected to persist through the second half of the year. Now, conclusions. It was oh, what I was trying to tell you, okay? Sorry, but you have to understand that English is not my native language. So forgive me for my my errors. Let's call it like this. Now, these tariffs are only going to impact negatively in manufacturers, okay, because they depend on raw materials, and there are things that the U.S. simply does not have. Well, I'm not just talking about aluminium from Canada or whatever. I'm talking about an entire range of products. For example, pharma companies need Europe and need China and need India. And each time you impose a tariff on a product that you need to have inside of your country in order to produce, you are damaging yourselves. Okay, it's bad business. Look, if you had the entire production inside of your country, okay, I would understand that you, for example, would impose a tariff on the product in order to produce your own native production. That is natural and all countries do it. But to impose tariffs, for example, in the finished parts that you import from Canada and from Mexico and from Europe and China, whatever, and then calling it a win, that I cannot understand. Because I see the American government cutting taxes to the wealthy part of the country. So let's call them the oligarchs, all of those people, they are paying less taxes. And you, if you are a common workman or workwoman on the street, no, you are paying more taxes. And you are paying in every sense of the word because they tariff, for example, the food or the components of your food, electricity, energy, okay, components for the cars. They tariff all of that. And the money that is coming out of that, the tax that the importer in the US has to pay, that tax goes to the state. And the companies, to recuperate that value, they have to increase the value of their goods. And this is why you are having food, cars, all, all things inside of USA more expensive because your economy worked with supply chains. It still works, okay? With supply chains from elsewhere, okay? You cannot understand economics as a closed circuit. No, it's not a bloody closed circuit, okay? For example, in USA, you could have larger manufacturers by doing things like, for example, what? For example, decrease the taxes on your own cars. That way, your cars will be more competitive, even inside of your country. What you are doing right now is, in a sense, selling off your country for the state to cut services and accumulate taxes. Okay, you are paying these tariffs, you are paying these costs because it's you that goes to the supermarket to buy the food. And you tell me, oh, we can produce all the food inside of our country. Okay, and you are jailing the people that pick it up. No, you are jailing the persons that work in your farms, that work in your food production. And then all of those farms are going under, and all of those companies that produce food, they are going under, and people with money are simply buying them out. And I and do they have an intention of producing food? I don't know. But then, if they are the only ones producing food, because you are unable to buy the food that comes from abroad, or the food components that come from abroad, you will have to buy them from within your country. And then, if there is only a few people owning it all, they will set the price. Nature of capitalism. But I suppose some people are alright with that. I wouldn't be, but just me. Now, I hope you liked this news watch, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Please stay safe, especially you folks in America.